What's up, Broncos country, and welcome to episode 11 of Keep Your Eye on the Ball, my YouTube channel dedicated to all things Denver Bronco football. Normally, we have a 3 keys to victory versus the upcoming opponent, in this case, the Los Angeles Chargers, on Sunday. However, I felt like we needed to do an evaluation of the heartbreaking loss that the team had to the Houston Texans last week. I will also be taking questions from you, the audience, and just, giving my insight on some of the things that you may need some more clarification on. And so, on that note, without further ado, let's jump in. So, in looking back to last week's loss, one of the things that I pointed out in my keys to victory was to keep C.J. Stroud in check. Now, what has been seen in the winning streak prior to the week before is that Denver has been really good at limiting the big play and also forcing turnovers. None of those happened on Sunday. When Denver plays passively and they only bring 4 rushers, they have a tendency to get carved up. And this happened a few different times with C.J. Stroud, where there just wasn't enough pressure in his face. He was able to find the open receiver deep, and he really hurt us a few times. He also missed a couple. There was one play, I believe in the third quarter, to one of his receivers where there was a busted coverage. He threw it, and he just overthrew him. So Denver did get aggressive late, and when they tried to force the issue, and obviously they needed stops later in the game. But it was too little too late. And the other part of it was the lack of turnovers that Denver forced. When your offense basically turns the ball over 3 times, you need to cancel those out with your own turnovers. And Denver did have a little bit of bad luck in that they almost had 2 fumble recoveries, and there was an overthrow that PJ Locke almost had that he didn't come away with. But at the end of the day, almost only counts in horseshoes and hand grenades, and they didn't convert those. So when you combine those 2 things, that's why Denver, unfortunately, didn't come home with a win. So the other thing that I really noticed from the loss to the Texans was, what does the identity of this offense want to be or need to be? Now, I say this because this has been a very conservative offense for the last 5 weeks when they've been winning. And Russ has looked good when he's been asked just to manage the game, make the correct read, check it down when he needs to, and not turn the ball over. I think Sean Payton and his offensive brain trust did see something to exploit on Sunday, and they did make a concerted effort to try and force the ball a bit. But the only time that it worked out was 2 deep throws to Courtland Sutton, and that was it. One of them being the touchdown. Now, what's more concerning about that is when those constraints have been in place, Russ has done well. However, when we needed to chase the game a bit, Russ became a bit more reckless in his throws down the field. And this was evident in the 2 of the 3 picks. One being the one where Stingley kind of baited him into making a bad throw. And the second one was the game-ending pick, where he throws a 50-50 ball to Lucas Kroll. So it's a tough place to be in, because if you play too conservative, you kind of put your defense out there on an island, and you're hoping that they force turnovers. But yet, if you fall behind, you're going to have to turn Russ loose a little bit, and we just saw what happened with that. So Denver really needs to figure out what their offensive approach needs to be going into the last part of the season. Now we get to the mailbag for this week, and I had 3 questions, 2 of which I'm going to answer. One, I'm going to answer. It's just not going to be what was expected. I do apologize. So let's go to the iPad. There's a rumor that something happened in the 2 weeks before the AFC game and Super Bowl 48 to completely derail the Broncos. And this wasn't John Fox's moronic and inadequate team prep. What was it? Now, I did try to dig in on this, and I could find nothing that I could substantiate. So hopefully, if you're watching this, maybe you can offline with me and send me what you found. What I do know is that the team did not practice with crowd noise, which led to the botched snap at the opening part of the game. I know that there were no second half adjustments from different players that have come on talk radio here in town. They basically said that they went into halftime and just sat there for 20 minutes. There was no adjustments. There was no rah-rah speeches, nothing. This was just a shell-shocked team that went back out on the field. There also was the plan for Matt Prater to, instead of kicking it out of bounds or kicking it out of the end zone for the second half kickoff, that they were going to let Percy Harvin return that. And we all know how that one turned out. So what you can chalk it up to was John Fox just letting the moment get it too big for him. Do I know what specifically happened in those 2 weeks? I don't. So if you know, send me something, okay? So my second question comes from my TikTok, where somebody asked, is Courtland Sutton considered a wide receiver 1, and should I start him for fantasy? Now, that's 2 questions. I see you being sneaking more than one question in there. But when I think of number 1 receivers, I think of Justin Jefferson, A.J. Brown, Tyreek Hill. And I just don't see Courtland Sutton being in that echelon as of right now. And that's no disrespect to him. I just don't think he doesn't have the body of work to be considered in that echelon of receiver. Part of that is constraints within the offense, but I do think he has accounted for himself well within those constraints. And I also think that he is our number 1 receiver by and large. Now, the second part of that is, should I start him in fantasy? Full disclosure, I am not having a great fantasy season. I am actually in a death match, trying not to finish last in one of my leagues this year. So take it with a grain of salt. But he is not a number 1 receiver there. If you have a deeper league and you have him, he is a very touchdown-dependent scoring option. But if you have something more consistent, I would go with that. Not that you can't. He has been good as of late, but he just doesn't see enough volume within the offense to really justify putting him any higher than a flex. So my third question actually came from work, where I had a colleague ask me, realistically, what do you think the Broncos' chances of making the playoffs? Now, I am of 2 minds of this, because the fan in me says they're going to do it. I have nothing but faith in my team. I have every confidence that they're going to pull out these next 5 games. The analyst in me says that it's plausible, but it's going to be a tough road. The Broncos are in the next 5 games are going to be on the road for 3 of them. They'll be on the road against the Chargers this week, and then they have a monumentally tough game versus Detroit the following week. They do have the Patriots at home, which should be a win. But again, it's the NFL. You never know what'll happen. And then the 2 after that, they have the Raiders at home. Or no, they have the Raiders on the road. And then the Chargers at home. Excuse me. Sorry. So, realistically, I like the Chargers games for us to win. I like the New England game. The Detroit game, stylistically, it's a bad matchup for us because of how well they run the ball. And the Vegas game worries me a little bit for the same reasons. Not because I think Vegas is a good team, but because they're very good at running the ball. They're very good at play action. And those are things that Denver has struggled with all year. So if I were to put a percentage on it, I would say 25%, which is better than where they were 5 weeks ago. It's not great, though. So this wraps up episode 11, and if you're watching this, thank you so much for your time. It means everything to me to be able to share my insights and my observations with people out there. If you like it, go ahead and give me a thumbs up, a comment, funny joke. Share it with your friends, share it with your family, share it with strangers. It's only weird the first time you do it, I promise. And Next week, we'll probably get back to the usual format of my 3 keys for the upcoming opponent and a return for Hater of the Week. But as always, just thank you so much. On a programming note, I won't be able to do a weekly blog anymore. Just time constraints, and it's not creating the traffic that I would like as of right now. It'll probably go into a monthly format where I'll be doing just a commentary to kind of sum up the month after it concludes with everything. But as always, thank you so much for your time. Keep your eye on the ball, and I'll see you next time.